Thank you everyone for joining and welcome to today's webinar, which is all about extending your CRM capabilities with both Noloco and HubSpot. I'm Jill, for those of you who don't know me, the head of partnerships at Noloco, and I'm thrilled to be your host today. And joining us are two fantastic guests. So we've got Jesse from HubSpot and Brendan, one of our certified Noloco partners and also a gold HubSpot agency partner. I'll allow them to introduce themselves officially in a moment. But just a quick note before we dive in, as always, today's session is being recorded. So we'll be sending out that to everyone tomorrow that registered. So if you missed today's session or want to catch up on anything that we have gone through in the next hour, you can do so tomorrow. But quick note as well, for those of you who are brand new to Noloco, of course, there may be a few of you on the line. Noloco is a no-code app building platform for businesses. And in today's webinar, we're going to be tackling HubSpot-specific app use cases that we think Noloco is really well placed to support now that we have an integration with HubSpot. And the goal really is for everyone to walk away with just a clear understanding of the benefits that can be felt from building apps powered by your HubSpot data and more, which we'll touch on as well throughout the next hour. But yeah, we've got two really great co-hosts to help me share that message with you today. So I'm going to hand over to Jesse first to do a quick intro.
Thank you. As Jill mentioned, I'm Jesse. I'm part of the HubSpot team. I've been part of the HubSpot ecosystem for about 6 years, starting as a solutions partner, climbing from gold to elite. Now I've been in this role for 2 years, working with hundreds of our app partners in our ecosystem, helping them identify what use case, what integration we're building, how do we go to market, and how are we ultimately driving shared value for our customers. One takeaway I'm hoping to leave with you all is the power of connected ecosystems and how much integrations really tie and how much that could unlock for customers compared to what any one tool can do alone.
Fantastic. So I think over to you, Brendan.
All right, I'm Brendan Flanagan, CEO of Smart Labs. Really excited to be here today and showcase what we're doing with Noloco and how we're managing client services and relationships for added context. Smart Labs, we're a full service B2B marketing agency. We have 16 team members delivering about 1,500 hours of work deliverables every single month. So it's a very high touch service, and one big takeaway and challenge that I think we're always constantly trying to resolve is just how do we improve that client experience. We found Noloco as a solution to help improve that overall experience, and then now that HubSpot's in the mix and that's our platform that we use, we're also a HubSpot partner. It's gonna really help improve that relationship anymore with our clients. So excited to be here today and showcase what we're doing.
Brilliant. Thank you so much for that, Brendan and Jesse. Look, we're so grateful to have you both on board for today's session, and to everyone in the audience, as we proceed through the session, please pop your questions in the chat or the Q&A box that is a part of Zoom webinars. We've allocated about 15 minutes to questions, which will come after the live demo. So hopefully we can tackle all those questions during that segment. But I suppose now the introductions and I suppose housekeeping is taken care of. I'm going to take you through what to expect. We've got to put together a little bit of an agenda. So first up, we're going to have Jesse from HubSpot, of course, and he'll be starting off the session just talking a little bit about, HubSpot in the market, the role of app integrations and the wider ecosystem, as he already mentioned, and spotlighting some success stories from the growth of their ecosystem. And we're very happy to be joining that family, right? And then we're going to move into a little segment from me, and really just kind of explaining why we chose to integrate with HubSpot, right? So taking you through the importance of the integration, the vision we have for it, but mostly touching a little bit on, I suppose, the common pain points that we know this integration can address, and just convey some of the benefits that can bring to business by now having these two platforms integrated together. That will lead us nicely into Brendan's demo, where he'll be leading a live demo of Noloco and HubSpot. In fact, it's his own internal tool that he is using at Smart Labs, and he'll just show a little bit of how the integration works and what challenges it addresses as well, of course. Then we'll jump into a bit of a Q&A session as promised, and we'll address any questions that came up throughout the session. And then finally, we'll do a very short segment at the end just to talk a little bit around the value for agency partners. You know, Brendan, obviously coming from both the Noloco Partner Program and the HubSpot Partner Program, is really well placed to speak on that. I'll be talking a little bit about it myself. And I think it's a great opportunity for anyone that is advising clients or has advised clients in the past that uses HubSpot and now wants to add, you know, an additional service on top with the help of Noloco. So yeah, really excited to dive into some of these topics with you. So let's get into it. I'm going to hand over to our first speaker, Jesse.
Thank you. So I just want to take a step back and look at the high level opportunity and what are we really thinking about with partnerships and integrations. So the first one is you're going to see HubSpot's talking about pushing up market, and you're going to see that in 2024 and 2025, but this still rings true of being the #1 CRM platform for scaling companies, but also for scaling app partners, technology partners, integrators, and solutions partners. So I like to preface with the question, like, what do integrations unlock? Well, we like to look at, there's two different things as kind of the core. There's tons of secondary, but these are two foundational I like to look at. Is one, integrations drive better stickiness, usage, retention, upsell opportunities, and ultimately value for shared customers between two tools. But it also helps partners and solutions acquire new customers through these different ecosystems, meeting customers where they are and in their existing work streams to build that better together story without disrupting what they're already using and building on top of. So I like to highlight the big addressable market that we see within HubSpot. HubSpot's built a strong customer base of 200,000 plus customers in 120 countries all over the world. And we find some really interesting data points on integrations. One of them being that most of our customers are leveraging over 7 different apps connected to the CRM. And we do see that 95% of our customers are using at least one, whereas at least 50% of our customers are using over 5 integrations. And as we see more integrations being implemented, we start to see more usage and more stickiness between HubSpot and these other tools. And with our 750K plus active users that are not existing paying customers today, they're also leveraging tons of these integrations that touch on the free starter version of HubSpot as well. There's been some research done by the IDC to address, like, what is this ecosystem opportunity? So the TAM that's been identified by the EDC is over a $26 billion opportunity ahead of us, a new opportunity. Over the next 4 years or a few years, you're going to see this in this graph right here, but seeing that it's continuing to grow year over year as HubSpot's continuing to grow year over year. What's really exciting about it and HubSpot's growth and what that means to our partners is something that we pride ourselves on when looking at ecosystem revenue. What does it actually mean? So every dollar of HubSpot revenue, we actually see our ecosystem driving $5 to $6, again, increasing year over year. This is talking about solutions and services around customers using HubSpot, but also apps and integrations, customers paying for that integration and wanting to have the two tools connected, willing to pay for the opportunity and the services that are built on top of the integration itself. So HubSpot, we really love the approach of a crafted solution, not cobbled. So we look at integrations and how that ties into the HubSpot products, marketing, sales, customer success, operations, content management systems. We have integrations and apps that tie into all of these different products. Again, HubSpot's building a remarkable solution, but you can't build everything all at once. So we heavily lean on our partners to help solve for the use cases where the HubSpot product is not solving for today. And we love deep integrations. There's so many things customers are looking to do within HubSpot and other tools that tie into that. One of them, I'm going to call out a few here, CRM cards. You can be built natively in the HubSpot UI. So you're fitting directly within the HubSpot experience, how customers are using it. They don't need to jump from a different tab to leverage your solution. They could use it directly within HubSpot. Custom objects. If HubSpot's not solving for the customer right out of the box, you can create these custom objects and help build what they actually want to use and what they really need to drive success in their business. Timeline events for segmentation, workflow integrations to automate more for your business. Calling, there's so many different things that tie into HubSpot, and these deep, robust integrations, again, really make all the difference. I love to look at integrations as data coming over is important, but what you do beyond that is really the power of the two tools working together. We've got a thriving app marketplace, which again, HubSpot prides itself on. We have over 1,600 apps and growing, and we're hoping to be at 5,000 by 2025. Again, we're starting to see some of this momentum of customers, partners, and customers building these integrations. And then you start to see your competitors also building the integrations, where it makes sense of why someone would choose one tool over another, because it's integrated with HubSpot and ties to their tech stack, where another one may not be doing that. The marketplace gets over 900K monthly views. Pretty remarkable level of volume. This is really telling us that customers want apps connected to their CRM, and they're actively searching for them. And like I touched on earlier, these apps and integrations in our ecosystem solve for the freemium starter all the way to the enterprise offering and everywhere in between. And there's also thousands of reviews of 5-star ratings of tons of these apps in our ecosystem, and they're accessible. Like I touched on earlier, you can access the marketplace directly through Google, finding the URL, or directly within HubSpot. In the experience, you can go find your apps, or some ways we're helping enable our partners. If you go to workflows and you want to automate something, you'll see apps popping up saying you can automate all these different things by installing this app that you didn't know you were capable of doing before then. Again, in this thriving app marketplace, we've got tons of remarkable companies in there. Some of them G2 leaders, some of them just driving remarkable success for their business. And we see great overlaps. Some companies we have 10 overlapping customers, some we have in the thousands. Again, speaking to how much value we can drive for shared customers. There's a lot of great tools in there who are doing it. But again, with so many tools and solutions out there, not everything is integrated with HubSpot today. There's so much opportunity to build more integrations and solve for the niches that are not existing as of today. I just want to call out a couple partners who've been able to drive success in the ecosystem and what that really meant to their business. Intercom being one of them, accelerating your revenue growth. When you can really tell that better together story of how your solution connects to HubSpot and why that makes it so much more powerful, you can talk to the customer and have richer conversations. When you're nurturing them, you can lean on that narrative and show them not only is my tool great and that your HubSpot is great, but here's all the remarkable things you can do with them together and what that unlocks for, again, all the different teams that are within HubSpot, marketing, sales, service. I love to look at the obvious, which is the core use case, and the not so obvious. How can other teams within the CRM leverage that same data? Another one is going to be Calendly. So they talk about the awareness. Again, 900K monthly views is pretty remarkable. And we like to highlight that to partners in terms of customers are searching for integrations. And they may not have heard of your tool before, but they may find it within the HubSpot ecosystem, again, searching our marketplace. They touch on here about fitting within existing workflows. We don't want to disrupt the customer and user experience by trying to add new tools that are more on that cobbled side. We want things that are going to fit seamlessly into what customers are already doing. Here's a couple of partners I just want to call out and highlight where they've actually been able to drive remarkable success, and we've done case studies on them. We have case studies on many other partners, but I just like to call out these two because here we can objectively look at what data is telling us that this is a great thing that we see together and that we should be leaning into it more. So I won't dive too deep into it, but just some of these stats that we could highlight, just increasing your deal size, increasing your win rate with these customers, your retention that we touched on earlier, shorter onboarding because you can talk about this value and customers understand how to leverage it quicker, and improving your conversion rate. because you can really speak to why should they be using your tool compared to a competitor, because you've got this deep, robust integration with HubSpot. So one thing we love to look at in HubSpot together and our partnerships and system integrators and solutions partners is HubSpot wants to serve millions of organizations and help them grow better, but we like to lean on our partners to help them grow better together.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Jesse, for providing some really fascinating insights. I've been taking some notes myself. You know, we're really excited at Noloco, right, to be joining this ecosystem of many apps. And yeah, look, I'm really excited to, you know, start adding some more value, right, to the existing HubSpot customer base out there. Which, you know, we're going to bring a little bit back now around to, I suppose, Noloco, the integration, why we chose to integrate, and what you can actually do with that integration, right? Because there's, I'm sure, a lot of questions on people's minds about that tuning in today. But for anyone who's brand new to Noloco, I'd love to give a brief overview of the platform for those who are unfamiliar with it. Noloco is a flexible, no-code app building platform that enables you to create fully customized apps tailored and around your business data, all without writing a single line of code. So our customers typically use Noloco to build anything from internally focused tools or customer-facing portals. And to help explain this a little bit better, there are 4 key pillars that you just need to think of when you are looking at the Noloco platform. So number 1, it's the data layer. So this is where you import your data from external data sources like HubSpot, or you can also even build your own database natively using our Noloco tables. And this forms the foundation of your app, which moves into the second layer, which is the app layer. So once the data foundation is laid, you can then start customizing your app, configuring the various pages that you need in your app, the different interfaces that your users will ultimately be viewing and interacting with. The permission layer then is where you control what your users can see and what your users can do inside of your app. So we do this through our clever user roles and permissions feature. And these rules can be, or permission rules can be applied on any data source that you connect into Noloco. So your HubSpot tables or any sort of other data source that you bring into Noloco in the data layer. And then last but not least, we have the workflow layer. And this is where you set up automations to handle those repetitive tasks within Noloco or even across the various other platforms that you're integrated with. So you can have automations on your contacts table, your deals table, whatever table you've brought into Noloco via the integration. And that goes for any other table of data you bring in from other data sources too. So once these 4 layers are in place, you can get an app that looks a little something like this. And the incredible thing is that this view that you're seeing as well can be created in minutes. So when you onboard to Noloco and create your very first app, after you connect your data, Noloco's AI will automatically configure default views, giving you an excellent starting point that you can then customize and tweak further based on your needs. And of course, as mentioned already many times, this data can be coming from a variety of data sources, not just your HubSpot CRM, which you can then go on to share with your team, your customers, or any other important stakeholders in your business, all while maintaining control over who sees what and who can interact with what inside this app. Now, as promised at the start of the webinar, I did say I'd love to touch on, why we chose to integrate with HubSpot. Now, we've all seen from Jesse's presentation, and we all know from our own experience that HubSpot is a market-leading CRM with a vast population of users. However, this wasn't our only decision, right? We didn't base it solely on that reason to integrate. We actually listened to our customers, many of whom are likely tuning in today, but are HubSpot users, right? So we received so many different requests for different reasons on what they would do with their HubSpot data if it could be brought into Noloco. And I'd love to share a few themes and trends that we saw from these requests, just to give you a little bit of context around what people are hoping to do. So, for example, a lot of customer facing use cases are right off the start that we'll touch on. So, think whenever there's a need to interact with a customer or provide them with a digital experience, having that portal layer on top of your HubSpot data. If you look at the second option there on this list, they wanted a way where customers could submit finance applications for their team that work in HubSpot, right? So, making the lives of your teams easier by creating interfaces that allow the customers to submit those applications directly and do the hard work for them, and thereby, improving their efficiency as a team, and, cutting out a lot of that in between admin interactions that we need to do otherwise without a clever interface layer helping those customers along. But interestingly, the last two examples I've included in here from many other examples that were shared, it's not all about customer facing portals as well, right? So we've seen a lot of demand for internal business apps. Many Noloco users out there treat their Noloco app as sort of a central hub that connects, data from lots of different sources. And then they build a sort of internal super business app, or however you want to call it, where they build interfaces on the many data sources they have, automations, visualizations as well. So think of our charts feature, visualizing data from lots of different places, and ultimately just connecting lots of dots across various systems in one clear view. So you can see here, one person had in mind an app where their key account managers could create quotes in HubSpot from their Noloco interface and have Noloco sit in the middle of their CRM and their ERP, right? So giving those key account managers the context they need from their ERP to then generate a quote in HubSpot. So, it is really touching both sides of the spectrum, both internal and external. And really the possibilities are vast, right? These are what we heard from our customers, but we see so much more potential in so many different areas of business that I think we will hopefully illustrate that in the live demo coming up soon. But yeah, I really do believe that Noloco can become that central HQ for your business, whether you're focusing on those internal processes or those customer facing operations as mentioned. So the last thing I wanted to say is, of course, HubSpot is now one of many integrations. We're so excited to be adding HubSpot to the lineup because it's been hot in demand for a while now. But these are all the other kind of data sources that you may be familiar with looking at the screen here. So Airtable is one very common one that we see in our customer base. Things like SmartSuite, Make, and Zapier, we have a direct integration with, which gives you access to a whole ecosystem of apps, right, through that integration. The list goes on. And these are a mixture of both data source integrations as well as, workflow app integrations like the likes of Make and Zapier, as I mentioned. So yeah, really excited to be adding HubSpot to this lineup. But before we dive into the demo, and I promise this is the last slide for those of you who are waiting with bated breath, I would like to mention some of the challenges that we see our integration with HubSpot addressing. So for those still connecting the dots in their head, the many use cases we mentioned plus more offer so much opportunity, right, to reduce data entry errors and administrative burdens for teams, right? So if you were to take the finance application scenario, for example, where teams would traditionally, potentially spend time on calls, sending emails, maybe using a form solution to collect responses that may integrate with HubSpot, that may not. Honestly, businesses go about this in many different ways. There's nothing worse than a forms experience as well that disappears and you can't follow up on your application or interact with teams after that fact. So if you take that example as a perfect one to illustrate the potential of inefficiency in that process, right? You're eliminating completely that manual data entry piece for your team. You're immediately eliminating the need for as many calls and emails that would have otherwise been sent to collect that information. And you're giving that customer the ability to actually track things and interact with their application and the team that's processing it. So that error, minimizing data entry, is eliminated. And of course, you're freeing up your team to focus on more value-added activities, right? So driving up their productivity, doing more with your existing overhead and employees, And I think when you have teams that are, of course, more productive, because they have these intelligent interfaces doing the work for them, right? They can do so much more. And that ultimately, I think, leads them into a greater position as a business to scale, right? So if you can trust the smart interfaces in place that are interacting and helping customers through your flow faster, and that goes to customers, partners, or any stakeholder that you're, interacting with outside of your business, you're ultimately going to be able to do more with what you have, right? Do more with the team you have and making them more productive and bringing in more business to your business, be it through customer scale or partner scale, whatever type of solution you're building on there. And then finally, I think it's super important to touch upon, the ability to provide a digital first experience to the stakeholders of your business, right? People have very high expectations these days. We are in 2024. We're all living in modern apps every day. And I think customers are expecting that same experiences with the businesses that they interact. So I think by helping businesses to create these experiences for their customers and their partners and any other stakeholder, we're helping them gain a competitive edge, right, than those that don't. We're helping them scale faster, and we're enabling them to do more with the existing headcounts that they have, all while reducing errors, as I mentioned right off the top, in your data. So yeah, I think there's tons of benefit beyond what I've mentioned, but I think this tees up Brendan really nicely for the live demo piece, and I hope it clarifies what Noloco is, right? And of course, why we see the HubSpot integration as a really crucial integration for us, and what challenges that we hope to address by having this integration on the market between two great platforms. But yeah, there's no better way than illustrating some of the points that I've already made than through a live demo. So I'm going to hand over to Brendan now, who is going to take you through what he plans to show.
All right. Thank you, Jill. So I'm excited to dive into this demo for everyone. I think based off that last point you had, Jill, on providing that digital first experience, and also Jesse's the app marketplace, kind of meeting the customer where they're at. That's a little bit of the theme here for Smart IQ, which is what I'm going to show today in terms of what it really is, and it's ultimately behind Smart IQ is it's a product of Airtable, where we manage a number of different projects for our clients. HubSpot recently introduced, and more of that customer relationship side of it. So the data, we'll go over what data we're syncing back to Noloco, and then there's also the Noloco tables for different user management. So Smart IQ is our Smart Labs. It's our solution to really meet the customer where they are at, extend our work in a transparent, convenient way to collaborate more effectively. Going really back, I think a few years is, I think, and a lot of agencies and probably service business struggle with this, but when we bring on a new client, a big part of our job is really understanding and helping them define who's their target audience or ideal client profiles. What is their value proposition? What's their branding? What's their messaging? There's all these core elements that you really have to get right in order to really start marketing your company and expanding your company. And I think we always struggled with the aspect of there's this great presentation, there's this great slide deck, everyone's excited, and then once you move forward, some of that just gets buried in a folder somewhere. People forget it, and things can not necessarily be aligned with that foundation. That foundation is so critical. So part of Smart IQ is bringing that into the user experience, that foundation, so it's front and center. and that the projects we're working on are aligned with that foundation, and ultimately resulting in better client experience, more aligned expectations, and how we're delivering. And Noloco is a huge part of that. So I'll provide a brief overview of Smart IQ, but really going to focus the use case around quarterly business reviews. Every quarter, there's some type of process. This could apply to different businesses beyond just Smart Labs and the agency perspective, but it is just understanding what are their top objectives, what are their goals, what types of projects do they have in mind that might be coming up, and ultimately, like, how are they, what's their satisfaction level with our services. And so it's a constant renewal process. So I think you could apply this use case to other use cases that we're showing. So we leverage HubSpot deals, the HubSpot object of deals for that renewal process, and I'll show some examples of how that interacts back with the HubSpot side of things. So all right, I think we're ready to jump in here.
Let you take over sharing. So Brendan, thank you for that great intro. Yeah, looking forward to seeing what's in store.
All right. So just to provide a quick overview, and let me add a little disclaimer here. Noloco in this case is a client, for this demo purpose, is a client of Smart Labs. So each client, when they log in, they're going to see their company name at the top. I am currently logged in really more from an account manager perspective at Smart Labs. So before I jump into the business review process, this is, you have sort of the typical client features that are book a meeting, strategy, manager projects. A lot of this information is coming from Airtable. So Airtable is where we can manage different projects and credits. So credits is our version, basically, of billable hours, a variant of that, users, and then we'll talk about quarterly reviews in a second. I mentioned before that go-to-market strategy being a really critical piece of that client alignment. And so it's, think about it as any customer type of profile, where this is, in this case, this is Noloco's target audience. These are the personas within those companies that they're targeting. We can store brand files, we can store key messages, value propositions as well. This, for added context, this information, if we take a view of the back end here, I mentioned the front end is really a product of Airtable and HubSpot and Noloco tables. So that go-to-market foundation, such as the client profiles, target personas, this is all stored on the Airtable side and displayed on the front end, the Noloco side. And then for HubSpot, since this is just recently rolled out, we only have the contacts, companies, deals, objects, or the core objects. We can certainly sync many more. We plan on bringing more of that aspects of HubSpot, that customer relationship side, into Noloco. That's like a key part of really the next phases of what we're doing here with clients. So right now I'm logged in as an account manager. We'll go over the quarterly review business process. And this event here, there's a pending QBR for Noloco. So basically an indicator to the account manager that, oh, it's time for another quarterly business review. I'll flip right now to Jill. Let's say I'm the client logging into Smart IQ here. And the message is going to be a little bit different. You might also notice that there's certain features that are not visible to the Jill, such as tracking time. That's not relevant for Jill. So it's time to start your quarterly business review. Again, a reminder, this information is really triggered from a deal creation. So this is our quarterly review pipeline. We have Noloco is now in the planning stages. And from the HubSpot side of things, you can trigger this in a number of different ways, whether it's date-based, meeting certain criteria through like some type of automation, or it's done manually. But the trigger is actually from the HubSpot side of things, which then ultimately creates this notification. So now it's my indicator if I am, I'll flip back to Jill here. So I'm the client user logged in. It's time to start the survey. So I can either go click at the start the survey or go into my review here. So right now we're at the planning stages. We'll say top business objectives, more sales. We had new sales hires, new website, new video, new campaign, and certainly this would be very different. But and of course we have this rating question for Smart Labs, and will give us a solid 10 there. So this is the first step is to complete this survey, which is then going to bring the client to the next step, and it's time to ultimately schedule their quarterly review session. So depending on who the account manager is, in this case, I'm the account manager for Jill. She can go through and select the time for this meeting. On the HubSpot side of things, what we're seeing is this. Now that survey is completed, that deal has now moved, or this review has moved to the performance analysis stage. So there are certain tasks that need to be completed for the account manager to look at their past quarterly review. What are their goals? How many leads are generated? Whatever metrics that we decided on in that action plan with that client. It's time for the review process. So we can manage this entire process on the HubSpot side of things, but I think the big part here is now we're bringing aspects of that quarterly review into the client without doing it manually, without those past quarterly reviews getting lost. And so when we're on those weekly calls, we're showing Noloco here, as a part of that collaboration. So we're constantly aligned in the process. So that's really an overview here. You see the data updates, the stages update. We have our answers here. This is also updated on the HubSpot side of things, and we're following the deal stages that we set in HubSpot. So that's just a brief overview. Jill, is there anything else that comes to mind that you think about sharing?
Yeah, no, I think it's a really great use case to show, right? This is such a common process, and I love that it's actually interacting with your deals object. A lot of HubSpot users are integrating with their contact object as well. So if there are those custom fields that store, custom information about your contact, your customer, that other people in the organization need to know, whether it's sales, marketing, service, whoever's logging into HubSpot, that's always being updated continuously through these interfaces. So whether it's a QBR, like Brendan mentioned, having that go into your HubSpot CRM, which is of course like many businesses' core central source of truth, is just so important. And then what I love as well in this demo is it shows off some of the great features that HubSpot offers. Right, you saw like a mini action button form there. Those could all be updating fields in HubSpot. You're collecting that information seamlessly from the customer, and then that's going right through to Brendan's team, and moving them on in the flow. The customer clearly knows where they are in the process as well, their performance analysis stage. You know, there's so much transparency. It's a really great showcase, I think, and just tip of the iceberg, really. And probably one thing I will get you to show actually before you collapse your screen completely, and then we'll move into Q&A, which is a very brief thing, is just to go to the data tab there and show the audience, I suppose, the integration one more time. Fab, yeah, and you can click on any table here, of course, but yeah, so this data layer obviously can look intimidating maybe to a new user at first, but this is where the magic happens, right? It's that foundational layer. You can see all of the different tables that we've brought in from HubSpot. Also, you know, Airtable, where a lot of that relationship management information goes, as Brendan mentioned. So yeah, it's just really cool what you can do in here. And there's this is where the permission layer and the automation layer comes in as well, just kind of touching on some of the stuff I mentioned in the slides that we went through earlier. So even if you want to drill into a permission section of one of these tables, whether it's HubSpot or Airtable, doesn't really matter. Just to show the permission rule builder, that would be pretty cool. So any table there of your choice that you maybe have something there. So this is where you have the power now, right, to completely control what the clients logging in see, right? So this is obviously core business data. You don't want to give clients access to absolutely everything. So you can see you can get really granular, read, update, create permissions on each field that you've brought in from HubSpot, and also more importantly, the record level permission access. So ultimately this feature is, you know, only pulling records from HubSpot for that end user if they are if the client is associated with the company on this deal record. If they're not, they won't fetch any deal records from this table. So you have complete security and peace of mind that no one's getting access to anything they shouldn't. And yeah, I just wanted to kind of call that out. And then the automations there as well. So the little lightning bolt. So this would be the kind of fourth layer that we mentioned. And yeah, you can create automations on your Airtable data, your HubSpot data, any data you bring in here. There's so many different actions you can do. Create, read, update, delete actions on your data, sending emails, sending a push notification in your app, integrate with ChatGPT if you want to use AI within the workflow as well. Really, the list goes on, especially when you think Make and Zapier as well that we integrate with. That's a whole other ecosystem of apps you can access through automations in Noloco. So yeah, some really exciting things here, especially for the brand new user that's new to Noloco. I just wanted to take people very quickly through that. But we're at 5:15 now in Irish time. So 15 minutes to go. Would love to do a little bit of time on Q&A, but thank you so much for that, Brendan. Great demo. Yeah, and hopefully people have taken a lot away from this. So let me share my screen one more time. Perfect. And yeah, this is just more of a holding slide than anything. There is a few questions that I will address that came into the Q&A box and in the chat. I'll start with the earliest one I received, which is from Gabriel. So first question, I'll read it out here out loud, is how often do you fetch data from HubSpot and what happens with big HubSpot accounts? So that's a really good question. So HubSpot is sort of a bit of a hybrid, right? So for anyone who is familiar with Airtable as a data source, that works on a webhooks model. And then lots of non-Airtable data sources like Postgres and so on we work on a syncing model. So we have a regular sync interval going between that data source and Noloco to keep both systems in check and up to date. So with HubSpot, actually, we use a mixture of a webhook model and a sync interval model. For those technical people on the call interested by that. So for core details like contacts and emails, they actually all get updated by webhooks, which is like the fastest integration method out there. So whenever a change happens, it's automatically passed through as a webhook to Noloco, and we reflect that change. Of course, from the Noloco side to any other system, we write updates to systems instantly. So the sync interval actually only is relevant on the other side when we're fetching from the external system. So for any other object outside of that in HubSpot, it works on a sync interval. And that we're doing that as regularly as possible without eating up the API usage limits. So many APIs have a particular rate limit. So we do it at the most economical way possible to keep the data source up to date. And then to your point on what happens with big HubSpot accounts. So look, the larger the apps, the slower the sync interval will be because there's a lot more data to process. But yeah, thankfully with HubSpot, it's a bit of a hybrid where we've got the really snappy webhook integration method. And then for some of the custom objects and properties, it works on a sync interval. So hopefully that answers your question, Gabriel. And there's actually one more follow-up, and then I have some other questions as well to dive in. So I might as well address Gabriel's follow-up here while I'm on the topic. So, and if there's a way to edit the data in the view and not editing a record with a form. So I might get you to expand a little bit on that. So let me think about this. Is there a way to edit the data in the view and not edit a record with a form? Yes. So with the example that Brendan showed with the little mini action button form, which had 4 fields, I think in total, or 5 fields in total, to collect from the customer at that point in time. Yes, so that would be the form method, but of course the detail or the view of data method is also applicable. So if you had a details block on your page and that details block was tied to your deals table in HubSpot, you could edit fields directly from the view there, and that would instantly edit them in HubSpot too. So that's just the more kind of data in view as opposed to the data in form mechanism of updating data via Noloco in HubSpot. So hopefully that answers that question there. If I haven't, you can of course follow up with the clarification. But yeah, some other questions here that might be best placed for both Brendan and Jessie. I'll have a quick look here. So yeah, so interestingly, right, your app is of course a customer app, but you know, integrating with the deals table and HubSpot could also be applicable to a partner app. So I have a question here kind of in the area of partner app specifically, but can partners have different levels of access within the portal, such as viewing only their deals or all deals across the organization? So that's really interesting, right? So the distinction there being like having both possible within the portal, you know, all deals or only some. Does that make sense? Do you think you can answer that one, Brendan? Or I'm happy to take it too if you want to dish it back my way.
Oh, I think if I understand it correctly, like it is almost like a lead registration type of process. So you know, we've thought about it as even we have clients who their distribution, their sales is primarily through resellers, partners, and many of their partners want to track the leads that they're providing, maybe the direct sales team of our client, and the progress of those. So a lot of different use cases like around that. And the short answer is absolutely, because within Noloco, you can bring that portal experience to, let's say, the partner and limit they would have a login role as a partner. And so the filters and the permissions that are available would apply to that specific partner logging in to see the leads and deals that they have shared.
Yeah, exactly. And the key thing there that you mentioned is both filters and permissions, right? Because you can use a mix of both. So what we showed you very briefly on the demo there was, of course, the permission builder, where it was applied at the data table there. That means like whenever a client access deals anywhere in the app, whatever view or whatever page they're on, that rule will be applied. Now, some partners may have higher privileges, right, that you bring into your app, that maybe you're going to give them access to a load of leads, as Brendan sort of touched on, but then they might want to have a view that's only my leads, right, that maybe have been assigned to me. So you can have that ability through filters, which is a bit of a I suppose a less strict way of restricting access to data, because in some scenarios you might need all access, and in other scenarios in your app you might need kind of filtered access to a subset of data. So that's where filters come in. But if it needs to be pure restricted access, that's where permissions come in, and you apply that at the API layer so that none of that data gets fetched in the first place. So yeah, I think that hopefully answers that question. So yeah, another question that's pretty kind of, that's more on the customer support side. So can customers submit new support tickets directly through a portal? And how would you link them to an account? Okay. So yeah, we didn't touch on that use case, although it was, I suppose, live, but it was mentioned in the event description as one of the common use cases that we foresee for this integration. So I'm happy to jump on this one very briefly, and if Brendan or Jesse want to add anything, feel free, but no pressure. But yeah, like a support portal for submitting tickets is definitely a solution we foresee for Noloco. So, you know, once you have the links in place, so if you're, let's say I take a HubSpot use case, you probably have tickets and contacts. They exist in your HubSpot CRM already, and they actually have a relationship that already exists. So if you're bringing those data tables into Noloco and you're creating a form to create a ticket, you will just simply surface the fields for the customer's information, the contact that will be tied with that ticket on the form. But one thing we didn't get a chance to show, and I'm not sure if it's set up, so I might just speak to it live, is with Noloco, once you have your contacts brought in from HubSpot, which will probably inform many of the users that will be logging into your Noloco app, we have this great feature called a user list sync, which allows you to kind of create a one-to-one relationship between a HubSpot contact and a Noloco user in the Noloco user table. They become integrated, and then we know the context of, you know, what you saw in the demo there, me, Jill, from Noloco. I exist as a contact in Brendan's CRM, and I also now have a user record in Noloco, the Noloco user table, because of that feature. And if I go to a form that's been configured by Brendan and his team in SmartLabs app to create a ticket, you can pre-fill information in fields behind the scenes. So you don't even have to ask the customer to be like, put in your email address for this ticket. It will just know immediately who's logged into the app and who's creating the record, and then pass a lot of hidden field information behind the scenes through that record creation on with the ticket. So there's lots of cool things like that inside Noloco that you can leverage, that helps, you know, reduce the burden for your customers or any app user inside Noloco. But yeah, I think that's probably all we have time for today in terms of quick Q&A. If there are questions we haven't addressed, we can get back to you over email. So, you know, I'll share my contact details at the very end of the session, so you can note my email down and funnel them through to me. But we have 5 minutes to go, and I'd love to just jump briefly into our next and final slide before we leave you go. So we want to just touch a little bit about Noloco for agencies and the benefits that we foresee for that channel. But I'm going to let Brendan lead this slide first, considering he is a HubSpot agency partner. I think no better man to speak on this one. And then we'll jump into closing remarks. So over to you, Brendan.
Okay, perfect. So yeah, definitely we're excited to partner with Noloco, and you know, what I showcase is our own use case, and similar to when we partnered with HubSpot. One of the best ways to start in the HubSpot partner program is to get HubSpot for your own firm. So demonstrating that success, and then now developing that expertise, and then helping your customers, you know, do basically the same thing. So practice what you preach, essentially. So we're really looking at this as an opportunity to create tailored solutions for our customers. So our customers, primarily B2B tech companies, so some of their use cases are going to be very similar across the board, such as, I think we talked about it earlier, was the lead registration process or tracking leads. So that's a very common need for our customers. And so I think there's additional value for us to create basically like a starting template that could be utilized for many of our clients to use and extend. There's also sometimes there's a need for a solution that you know, out there that I'll use the lead registration system again. If you go on the app marketplace, there's different channel enablement platforms that are out there. You can sign up for a channel enablement platform if you have specific needs and that are available, or maybe you just want to get started with a really simple lead registration process. And so Noloco just might be a more targeted, tailored solution for ultimately the client to bridge, what is available in the app marketplace and what you can customize Noloco to do. So that, ultimately expanding service offerings, having that expertise to quickly build solutions. I'll say very quick. So even like the renewal process workflow was built in a matter of hours, and that's part of that is just thinking. The Noloco side of things is probably even less. And then, ultimately, if you're using this for your own use case, enhancing that client experience. So we're meeting the client where they're at, digitizing the aspects of that. You mentioned it, automating manual processes using the workflow feature within Noloco. So it could be account updates. It could be every single time. Well, one that we use today is whenever we have a workflow for how we submit deliverables and the approval process associated with that. And so instead of writing an email with links and next steps and here's what we need back from you and doing a long threaded email exchange, we really simplify it down to upload the work, submit it, and the client gets the information. It has all the context about the work that's being submitted, and they have clear action steps to take within the portal to basically approve or get feedback. So that alone is saving hours and hours every single week.
Brilliant. Yeah. And I think it's great that you can sort of speak from both being almost a customer of Noloco as well as a partner of Noloco on that topic, using it internally in your agency. So yeah, no, I really agree with a lot of what you're saying, and I'm glad it's coming from you organically as well. That's really important. But yeah, I just think, going back to what Jesse mentioned at the top, and I think based on just some of the profile of users I can see on the webinar today, there's a lot of agency partners out there looking in, and there's over 200,000 HubSpot customers and growing out there, all looking for solutions like this. And I think it's a great opportunity for people who are experts of Noloco, or a HubSpot customer that is tuning in, and maybe a lot of the solutions presented really resonate and are things that you've been looking for in your business. There's some exciting things in there for you to check out, look at. And I suppose that brings me to my final call to action before you go, is that I would encourage anyone who hasn't tried Noloco yet to try us out, right? We offer a 30-day free trial. During that trial, you can integrate with HubSpot if you have a HubSpot CRM set up. So I definitely urge you to do it, test it out, share your feedback. We'd love to hear from you. And yeah, I'm excited to see what new customers we bring on board through this integration. So I've left both myself and Brendan's contact details. If you'd like to follow up with me on anything to do with the HubSpot, integration, or even the Noloco partner program, if you're interested in learning a little bit more about that. Also to Brendan, if anyone is looking for a quick, fast start project, wants to get spun up with a Noloco app really quickly and are a HubSpot customer, I would definitely recommend reaching out to Brendan. He's really, really well placed to help you out there on that front. So yeah, I think that brings us to the end of today's presentation. We're bang on 1/2 the hour. I hope everyone has taken away something from this. But I just want to say thank you to our two wonderful co-hosts for coming on board and helping, bring this message across to our audience. And yeah, thank you for the great questions as well that came up throughout the hour. So that is everything from me. I'll leave you go back to your busy days of work. Thank you, everyone, and I will hopefully talk to you soon.
Thank you for having me.
Brilliant.
Thank you.